love the total cost of ownership discussion as well, because, you know, as I was kind of alluding to earlier, the ROI adjustment or changes maybe that's happening over the years has been, what is total cost of ownership and how do I define that? And is it believable? Because are there any accountants in the room? Okay, so at least in my experience, when you have accounting, they want hard numbers. And the only hard number they can really accept many times is it's a head count adjustment. So trying to define something else like it's more efficient, or we'll talk about benefits in a minute, was a little more complicated, but total cost of ownership is still pretty hard. So total cost of ownership is really your initial investment plus your maintenance costs plus your operating costs. And then you figure out how that investment, what it meant to you. So those are pretty hard figures you can use. You know what you spent. I know we have a gentleman here from UPS and we deal with them, and total cost of ownership is a big deal. They're monitoring every piece of equipment that goes into their facilities and what the maintenance cost was over time. And so I think that is a very critical piece. And I think as manufacturers, we can help end users understand what that looks like. So
are there any questions so far? Yes.
How many assumptions do you make in the maintenance cost?
There are several assumptions you should make, and you should also define your assumptions. Okay, because again, I think, at least in my experience, the accountants are going to dig and dig and dig, and they're going to ask a lot of questions, and rightfully so. They want to make sure that it's believable, because they're going to move it up to a board level potentially, or a higher level, and they want to be able to answer those questions. So I think you just state your assumptions, be clear about that, and move it on. Yeah.
You got a question?
Yeah, are a lot of people placing a lot of value on IRR? The internal rate of return versus an ROI?
In my experience, and a lot of companies, at least that we're dealing with, some of the larger companies have created an IRR standard, okay, like inside the business. So if you're going to come to me with a capital project, then give me options, okay? Give me good, better, best, or 1, 2, 3, or whatever. And one of them's going to have a payback that's a shorter amount of time. One of them's going to have a payback that's a longer time. And then what are those associated costs? I think as companies are getting bigger and more progressive, that's something they're wanting to do internally. And then if they're not that way, I think it's a good thing for us as manufacturers and integrators to provide that.
When you're looking at ROI, it's just so imperative that you do your homework up front, that you really look at all of the items that go into this ROI. And so, for example, on maintenance costs, think about it. You have preventative maintenance. You have spare parts that are going to come into the equation. You're going to have training that's going to come into it.
The software development is one of the biggest pieces that
exactly. And then look at the contracts. Maybe you're using outside contracts for your 7x24-hour software. So you really want to be able to pull those together. But the reason why you got to do your homework is because if you're going to go to the executive and you're going to say, I want to be able to justify this, you've got to show him line by line so the accountant can go ahead and say, yep, he's got his math together. And then you'll be able to go ahead and say, so this is actually what I'm going to be part of my total cost.